I don't know why I'm typing in chat. If I can just talk. Let's check the audio. This is the pre-stream. That's what it's going to say in the timestamp. It'll say pre-stream. Let's see here. On my end, okay, I've got Bose speakers, Bose headphones. I sound good. I sound loud. I sound proud. In it to win it. Okay. Audio test concluded. Guaranteed we'll have 6 people come in and tell me I'm too quiet. I'm a quiet guy. I'm not really like a loud, excitable guy. I think that's part of it. I also mumble a lot. That's also a part of it. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Listening, either the recording or otherwise. Let me make sure all my secret private keys are hidden here before we swap the scene. Pro streamer. We got the beanie on today. It's a little cold. Kids' birthdays on the halving. Let's go. I gotta rejigger the chat so I can read this here. What can I do? Let's see here. Move this there. All right. So, I don't know about all y'all, but I think most people, sentiment-wise, are probably more bearish than normal, if I had to guess. Most people, if you were alt denominated, you got destroyed over the past week. Destroyed. This is terrible OPSEC, but my birthday's also coming up. It's not 420, but it's close. So I'm guessing most people are leaning more towards this half of the spectrum. I'm here. This is me. I'm neutral. We can look at funding too. I don't have that on the list, but funding clearly reset. Funding has been running negative for quite some time now, which is good. It's good that we have absorbed what we have absorbed without completely collapsing, as in falling below 60K. I'd love to see more ETF outflows too. Let's get it all on the table. That way all these people saying, oh, we're going to get so many outflows. You just wait. We're going straight back down to 30, guys. That's always a possibility, but I don't think it's necessarily a likelihood. So we'll talk about halving. That's obviously this week. The date has a big meaning and importance. As far as price, it doesn't really matter. The date has never mattered. It's all about after the halving. It's like 3 months after the halving. It could take quite some time for things to pick up again. I'm thinking specifically about 2016 when we came out of that bear market. Everybody was all super excited after the 250-day consolidation, and we had the Bitfinex hack, and the Bitcoin price appreciation basically saved Bitfinex. I don't think Bitfinex would be here today if it weren't for what happened after the halving in that case. I've got some seasonality charts we'll look at. I talked about them in the video Tuesday, but we'll look at them again. Power law corridor. It's funny. So Fred Krueger comes on the scene like months ago. Smart guy, interesting guy. Talks about power law corridor, figures it out or finds it or brings it to light, and all of a sudden it's like the coolest thing. It's just funny because a lot of us have been talking about power law stuff for a long time. Anyway, we're basically around the fair value level for power law, so we'll look at that. We're kind of like where we should be based on models, based on what you'd expect over the long-term time frame. So again, there's like nothing crazy here relative to halving. It doesn't seem as though we are overbought, we're oversold. We're kind of just hanging out where we should be. The daily cloud so far it's held. So far it's held. And this is one caution for people. This is something I had to learn looking at the cloud stuff with the bearish edge to edge moves. somebody got angry at me because I keep calling the cloud bearish. The cloud itself right now, everything is still bullish. Everything. Okay. The problem is crypto moves so fast that you can't just assume like it's going to stay bullish because it's bullish right now. You're trading, you want to go where the puck is going, right? So even though everything's bullish right now, this moment as we speak, it's leaning increasingly not so bullish. And you can play that with the bearish edge to edge move. We'll talk about that. There's 2 trades set up specifically for next week to look for. We'll talk about that on Bitcoin. The issue with the short right now on the bearish edge to edge move is we don't have a bearish TK cross yet. Okay. And of course, the other thing is like, do you really want to be short going into halving? I mean, the chart is the chart, but you know, look, if we get the setup, I will take the trade. I will take the trade. I'll take one for the team, and we'll talk about what to look for. But so far, we're hanging out in the cloud. You cannot say the same for alts. Alts look real bad. If you guys want me to look at any alts, you can just name them throughout the stream here, and we'll take a look. But the alts are just, I mean, we've got ETH outperforming on the downside and outperforming on the downside and underperforming on the upside. It's like, why hold that? I don't know. At least for the time being. So the short is going to be, the short setup is bearish edge to edge. I got to be careful what I say because people are going to flame me on Twitter in the comments, but that's the short setup to watch. Alternatively, on the decision tree, the cloud on the 8-hour, you know, we might get an inverted head and shoulders. We might get double bottom. But the 8-hour cloud should be good enough, and it's completely reset. Should be good enough to give you a setup there. So that's the short and the long trade. We'll look at those. We'll look at ETF flows, which have been flat, negative. You know, they haven't been great. Let's be honest here. And then Legacy still worries me. Legacy looks real bad. It looks worse today. And unlike Bitcoin, Legacy is actually more bearish on the cloud. We'll take a look at the difference there. The great thing about learning the basic cloud stuff is it's applicable to any market. So you can just compare on a relative value basis and see the difference in what to watch for potentially for the Bitcoin short, for example. I don't have any short QQQ trades on. I don't have any short what is it? Chips, SMH, SOXS would be the short ETF. I don't have any of that on, but I did cut a lot of my equity stuff on the legacy side over the past 2 weeks. I'm just sitting in cash, just waiting. I have more cash right now, I think, than maybe ever. I don't know about you guys, but when I talk about this yin and yang between do I sit in yield and chill or do I try to play the risk game, you know, I'm talking about myself because I am literally making that decision for my own portfolio. So it's just easier to say until we have a clearer picture on the Bitcoin side or alts or whatever, it's just easier to just wait it out, wait for your pitch, right? Just wait for your pitch. You can DCA, there's nothing wrong with that. We'll take a look at what I'd want to see for the trend and where to DCA and that sort of thing. But exactly, Dom, like yields are so high historically for the past 15 years or whatever. Yields might not be high on like a 50-year time frame, but real yields above inflation, at least government reported inflation, are quite high. So that's going to push things into yielding instruments. Sol, we got, yeah, so if you guys don't want to look at anything, just let me know. We'll take a look at alts at the end, and then hopefully this will make the timestamps all nice and easy. GRT? Or sorry, Quant? What's Quant? I don't know what that is. Filecoin, of course, yes, Filecoin. Can you explain a bit more why BTC is inversely correlated to DXY? Why do we need a weaker dollar? So we don't need a weaker dollar per se. BTC, its opposite is USD, right? You know, for most people, that's what we're looking at. If that's the case, a weaker dollar acts as a tailwind, a stronger dollar acts as a headwind, and it's back to the yield conversation. You know, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, where do we see the value? Do we see the value helping us with a stronger dollar or a weaker dollar? And it just helps us with a weaker dollar. So we tend to be inversely related. That also means we tend to be correlated with emerging market currencies. And again, if there's a strong dollar, emerging market currencies are weaker. Yeah, exactly. WITs, historically, if the dollar is weak, risk is stronger. Man, Ken, I don't know if there is a bottom on ADA, but we'll take a look at that. I don't know, man. Right. So the dollar strength, the DXY, it's all a relative game. That's the other thing. Even though the dollar is junk, it is, as some people say, the cleanest dirty shirt. It's the less junkiest junk compared to all the fiat currencies. There are fiat currencies that are clearly worse than Bitcoin already, but amongst like the G7 or the G20, the USD is still the best and the strongest. You know, as crazy as stuff in this country is, it's much worse elsewhere. Much, much worse. And so that gives the relative value of the dollar a boost, which is what we're seeing, what we have been seeing, right? The Fed is pushing back potential cuts, whereas other countries are talking about cutting soon, tomorrow. Like the euro is probably going to decline against the dollar because the euro BOE will be cutting first, right? Is it BOE? Whatever the Bank of Europe, Bank of whatever. They're going to be cutting before we are. So you should expect the euro to fall against the dollar. It's DXY versus rest of the world, the ROW, right? ROW is going to be cutting and weaker than the dollar. ARB. Yeah, we can look at layer twos. Unfortunately, you know, it's good that we're looking at all this stuff. That's why we do this every week. That's why I do it every week. I do it to get ideas from you guys. I mean, let's be honest, right? But a lot of this stuff, there's just no trade on any of it yet, you know. ECB, thank you. GC. It doesn't look good enough to buy. It doesn't look bad enough to buy, at least for me. You know, I want to see crazy lows on a lot of this stuff before even thinking about it. What was the other thing? I forgot to pull up let me close this. One second. I gotta switch. Okay. I wanted to pull up the ETF stuff real quick. We'll take a look at that after this. And one other thing, somebody yelled at me too. The liquidity conversation, the focus is clearly the United States. We're the reserve currency. We are stronger than the rest of the world at the moment. That's why I live here, right? I'm going to be U.S. centric. Obviously, other liquidity conversations are important. We'll talk about that. Ways to measure that. Yeah, if you want me to talk about anything else, alt land, let me know. As far as the Bitcoin seasonality stuff, this data, the way I have cherry picked, let's just go straight to it. The way I've cherry picked the halving data, okay, so this is plus or minus 400 days from halving, historically, 2016, 2020, 2024. The average line includes 2012. Let's just assume, for argument's sake, that that's going to be the most bullish scenario, okay? 2012 probably never going to happen again. The 2012 line is we can look at it. It's like off the chart, basically. I think I deleted it because it was just, yeah, I deleted it. It's not going to happen again, realistically, right? If it happens again, great, and all the models are going to be wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen again. So anyway, this is a look at the yellow line, which is smack dab in the middle of the other two halving periods, right? So depending on how you want to measure this, from the cycle low versus the previous cycle top, that's all fine. And we can talk about left translated cycle and all that other stuff. It's just looking at it like this, that refutes that argument. That says, look, we are exactly where we should be. We are clearly similar relative to 2016, relative to 2020. This isn't like a crazy level. This isn't even early looking at the data this way. Now, if you look at it from the bottom of 2022, right? If you look at it from November, I think it was like 11/11, right? 2022, something like that. Then we are plus 350%, and we're super early, and it's left translated, and whatever, right? Okay. I will submit this as an argument against that to say, look, we are just where we should be based on days relative to halving. And it makes sense. If anything, we were undervalued 200 days out, fairly undervalued 350 days out, 250 days out. And right here, we're about where we should be. You can see the COVID spike down. That was March 2020. You can see the Bitfinex hack here. That was post halving in 2016. And that's it, right? I mean, we're right on pace with where you'd expect. The upcoming predictive leading signal here would be probably don't expect too much until 3 months after halving. And I talked about this in the video, but 3 months after halving would bring us to the monthly. 3 months after April, 1, 2, 3 would bring us into July, which has been a good month. Okay, we can look at the days back to 2014. Generally, it's been a pretty good month. When it's positive, it's 8 to 24% positive. Okay. June been kind of a muted month, but August, September are not great months historically. They're not great months for Legacy either. Legacy, those are terrible months. So it's going to be interesting what wins out here. Are we going to be, are we going to be early on this as far as rise before 100 days after halving? Are we going to be late on this and push this out into 150 days? Man, I would love it if we sort of went flat for 3 months and everybody lost their religion on the halving boost or bump in price. And then after that is when we went up, I would just love that. I'd love for people to get contrarian on this. And then, there's going to be people coming out of the woodwork saying, this halving doesn't matter. It's less of a drop than the last two, and it's going to continuously be less important. Okay, that's rationale to suggest that this may get pushed out past 100 days on this expectation. But this is what you'd expect, So I don't see any left translated, right translated. I don't see anything here. This just looks like normal stuff to me, and just isolating that again, it looks normal. We can expect maybe a all-time high creep 100 days, 90 days in. I don't know. We're on par with what you'd expect. So I don't really see the quicker argument, the left translated argument based on this. It just doesn't make too much sense. And it also doesn't really make sense that we're going to see some crazy mega move super soon. That's going to happen probably past September. Into October is what I'd expect. And that's fairly close to lining up with this. So anyway, that's enough about seasonality stuff. But just looking at this, I'm not worried about anything as far as expectations. So we look fine. looking at the power law corridor, which is what you can search for on TradingView if you want to pull this indicator up. If we pop on the halving dates, if we look at the lows and the highs, this was created, the power law was created, I think, in like 2016, maybe. The corridor stuff was created in like 2018. So anything after what, I forget the exact date, but anything after 2018 is where the predictive part of the model came in, at least for this specific power law corridor. So it caught the bottom. It did not catch the top. I'd argue that the SBF selling of BTC was a big deal. SBF fraud was a big deal for the market. Now, if FTX wasn't the biggest exchange at the time, if they weren't receiving the most VC dollars to pump crap, if they weren't just, manhandling the market, then it'd be a different story. But it's hard to ignore that as a possibility. So we'll never know what this high would be, but clearly it was under the expectations of the power law. So going into halving, you can see we are once again about the fair value line, which would be 74.4 is the fair value line. So we're under that now. We hit it. We were early by a few weeks on that, right? Again, comparing this to previous halvings, we typically reach that fair value line much, much later than we did currently. So again, this adds to the left translated argument. Okay, fine. We're still underneath it. We haven't crossed that fair value line yet. So that again gives me hope that we have quite a bit of ways left in the tank. One other way to measure this is to say, okay, here's halving. Where was the top? Where was the top in the previous cycles? We can look at that. That's the red vertical line here. And then we can measure that and give us some potential time frame, and that would be February 2025 to September 2025. That's the window if the cycle top is similar to the previous 3 cycle tops. That's the window in which you'd expect a cycle top, okay? So that's your time frame, that's your timeline, potentially with the model. And then we can also say, okay, where do we think this is gonna go? Price-wise, let me just pull up the BitBo chart because he's got the live version of this. I think it's under indicators, maybe? No. Where'd he put this? Here we go. Price projection, long-term power law. This is another free chart. I'll put it in the description of the video. It's the power law corridor. It's the same stuff. So if we think the cycle top is going to be between February, this is all just guessing, by the way, right? I'm not saying like, oh, I know it's going to be on this date. We're just saying like, look, X days after halving, based on the previous cycles, February 2025 is what, 390. I guess I can blow this up. The maximum peak you'd expect is like 380 to, where's September? 380 to 480, something like that, right? Okay, sure. I'll take it. I think any of us in this chat would take it. I think anybody watching this stream later would take it, right? So this is where that 333K by July 2025 price target is from. It's literally from this specific chart. So if you're bullish, if you think the halving is bullish, if you think central banks doing terrible at their job is bullish for Bitcoin, then you have to have some model in mind. You have to have some target in mind. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it helps to have the conviction, right? It helps to say, hey, I think this is going to go here because XYZ, and here's some math behind that. Okay. So that would be the wheelhouse where I would be satisfied with selling some BTC up there. I think most people would, right? Again, here's that fair value line, 74 to 76, whatever it is. So anything, if we get close to 30, okay, yeah, I might open some credit cards down there. I might go down with the ship, guys. I'm like, guys and girls, because that would be extremely undervalued. Again, I don't think that's likely, but that's something to think about on the extreme bear case. In the extreme bear case, anything around 30 is unlikely. Something either's gone wrong, this model is broken, or it's a temporary drop. Anyway, so the cap this cycle is probably 3 to 400,000. The targets always sound insane, and we can look at what the targets look like for each cycle. We can look at the last cycle, how close we got to those targets. If we do this, we were close-ish to that 100K level, and it's one of the reasons why people kept saying 100K. It was partly because of the power law corridor. If anything, this second high makes the least sense to me. It doesn't really matter, it already happened, but okay, great. So that's the power law. That's where those long-term targets come from. We can add two EMAs to that. One being the 200-week moving average in the red. The 200-week, we don't live below long, and we have only gone below that really during the STF shenanigans, or SBF shenanigans. The second one to watch would be the 20-week moving average. In a bull trend, we do not ever close below the 20-week unless it's over, okay? I guess you could argue in 2013, that was the only time that happened. But for the most part, in a bull trend, we do not close below the 20-week. So if you're a DCA warrior, the closer we get to the 20-week, the better for you. The closer we get to the 20-week, if I'm DCAing, the more I want to buy, okay? So as we're sort of relaxed up here on price, you can see that the 20-week is catching up to price, which I would argue is a good thing. If we're convicted and we're bullish, we don't want fast moves all the time. We want some give and take. This is similar to the January, February period. This is sort of normal, for what you'd expect. Intra-trend, you get some pullback, you get some people taking profit, whatever. So currently on the 20-week, it's around 52, 54K, something like that. You can put this on the daily chart. Just put the 140 moving average. That is the level on the daily chart. It's no surprise that the cloud 2061, 2030 settings on the daily is basically the same thing for the 20-week moving average. And so far, we've held above the cloud. We've barely held above the cloud, but we're there, right? It's taken it's taken a beating. We held above the Kijun for 4 days, and I wasn't super optimistic that we would bounce on that just because everything else is kind of rolling over. But we can hold here. This isn't irrecoverable, and this goes back to the setup for the short. If we look at what happened in January, we tried to close in the cloud. We did not have a bearish TK cross, and we bounced. So the most bearish picture here for a short setup would be a bearish TK cross, which won't happen for another week, I think. I think it's April 26th, somebody said, is the estimate for the bearish TK cross, assuming we go flat from here. So this could bounce around for another week or two and then break down. That's certainly possible. So obviously if you're short from 72, you're laughing, right? But as far as a short entry down here, I'd be waiting for a bearish TK cross with a daily close in the cloud. What you don't want to see, obviously, is price closing with a bearish TK cross and then immediately going to 55K in the same day, because then you don't get an entry, So ideally, we chop around another week. If you're looking for a short or whatever, that's one way to trade this. 55 would be the bottom of the cloud, which would be a target. The other target would be the 20-week moving average. And if we close below that, then that's something we've never done before in a bull trend. So that would be a problem. So I wouldn't expect a short much below there, personally, at least on the initial shove. So 52 to 55 would be the level. We can look at the triple top, inverted head and shoulders, King's Castle, whatever you want to call it, depending on where you measure this. If you are kind of conservative but not really conservative, you get this target. If you're a little bit more conservative, using the head and the right shoulder as the high, we've actually hit the target already. But from the long side, let's say this recovers. Let's say we go back to 66. Great. What are you looking for on the 8 hour? You're looking for what happened in February. The exact same thing. You're looking for an 8 hour close above the cloud with a bullish cloud with a bullish TK cross. That's what you're looking for. If we get that, that's going to take another week, probably. Now, I think it would take probably 3 weeks for a bullish TK crisscross on the daily, but that's something else to watch for down the decision tree into May. If we get a similar to February, it's great that we just had this happen, because it's a perfect example of things regaining steam after sort of resetting. So the immediate two setups are potential short here, dangerous, unnecessary cash. Cash is a 1x short, right? If you're in cash, if you're holding any amount of cash, you are long cash, short BTC by default. So I don't think there's any additional pressure to do anything here. But if you want a short setup that I think is worth taking, it would be a bearish TK cross with price closing in the cloud. Haven't seen that yet. Target would be 52 to 55. Your stop loss on that would be wherever the Kijun ends up being at the time. Okay. Alternatively, to the long side, bullish Kumo breakout, bullish Kumo twist. That could take a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? So those are the things I'd be looking for on Bitcoin on the long side. I think anything down here on low time frames, we can look at, if there's a falling wedge here, there's an inverted head and shoulders here, we might double bottom here, we might get a full-blown month-long inverted head and shoulders again, like we did in January. It's too early to say what this is, but we can zoom in and look at that. All right, let me catch up with chat. What cycle do you think we have more following? 17, 18, 20, 21? I mean, to me, these cycles, if we look at 2016 and 2020, halving, these cycles are virtually identical. So, I think we're splitting hairs if we're saying, is it this one or that one? There's another chart from Ecoinometrics. I think he includes the 2012 halving run up there. I think you got to throw that out of the model, because I don't think that's realistic, especially when the past two halvings have lined up to me so cleanly like this. It just makes sense that this is the band of expectation, right? We're there. We're plus or minus what? I don't know, 20% or something right now between the model, assuming these are the bands. So I think this is the expectation as far as the next year, what to look for. I don't think this is that crazy either. It's not either cycle, it's both cycles, at least the previous two. But again, it depends on how you measure that, how you want to think about that. So I think they're fairly close. USD MXN, let me write this down. And UJ, man, UJ is a ticking time bomb, because this goes back to yields, this goes back to risk on versus risk off. If the BOJ decides to intervene at 155 and they decide to dump a bunch of US Treasuries, that'll bring yields up, prices down, and that would be a problem for risk. Everybody in the world kind of wants inflation at 2%-ish constant. They want bonds not to be volatile. They want no geopolitical risk. You know, we have the opposite of all those things right now. White chocolate. I gotta say the name out loud. He said XRP wins. I don't think so, but hey, that's one thought, I guess. By saying that you are not seeing left translated, seeing we are at a new all-time high. Yeah, so this is just like, I'm not going to disagree with the thesis behind left translated because it's an all-time high, whatever else, but this is like, I'm looking at the same data you are, right? This is how it looks. This model or this data doesn't care about where the all-time high was. It doesn't care about days in between all-time highs. It doesn't care about any of that. It just looks at days plus or minus relative to halving. That's it. So, you know, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just a different way to look at the data. That's all. It just doesn't agree with the left translated stuff. Do you think 2025 or 2026 for a top? Based on previous cycles, it would be 2025. So if we go back to this, 511 days after halving was the longest period. That was the 2017 into 2018 period where we saw the top. The other two were between 280 and like 350 days. But again, if you want to measure this from the cycle low, where could we go? You would take the 2015 low to the 2017 high and look at that same data. That's probably closer to the left translated stuff, again, because we're quicker on it. You could take the COVID low, you could take the 2018 low. It just depends on what you measure. All I'm measuring here is days after halving. When did we start to move? Where did we break the fair value midpoint? And then where was the cycle peak relative to after halving? You could also take the second all-time high in 2022 or whatever this was, measure that from the halving. That would throw out this 287-day estimation. Like, you know, again, it doesn't really matter. Not really, because we're just guessing. We're just saying, like, this is where it's happened before. Maybe it'll happen there again. But if I had to guess, 2025 is going to be the cycle top. Probably Q4, if I had to guess. That's just where things tend to do best. Yeah, we'll look at QQQ, Ken, for sure. I want to look at TQQQ. Bianco brought this up a long time ago, but other people have brought this up for years, that Bitcoin is nothing more than a leveraged NASDAQ. Sure, you know, we'll look at it. MC's here for the positive vibes. I'll take it. What do you think BTCD will top out? We'll look at that. Can we look at Sol? Yeah, we'll look at Sol. BTC has never traded under the 50-day EMA until the top. Now BTC is trading below. Well, Royal, that's one way to slice this, ain't it? We can say, let's look at that. This is the weekly. If we go to the daily, I mean, there's always going to be something we're violating at any point in time. That's why I like the higher time frame stuff the most. All right, so he says we've never traded below the 50 EMA. Okay, I got it's actually on here. Boom. EMA until it was the top. Well, I mean, we traded below the 50 EMA in January, right? Now, if you're saying that post halving we don't trade below the 50 EMA, even that isn't necessarily true. That happened in September 2020. It happened a bunch throughout 2017. So I don't think that's true though, right? I mean, you can see us. We closed below the 50 EMA a bunch of times. So I don't think that's a big deal, personally. That's why I like the 140 moving average. If I can find it. We just changed this to 140. you know, we have a lot to give back if we're gonna give it back. In 2020, we didn't ever retest the 20 towards the end. You know, towards the end, it was just straight vertical, right? In 2017, 2016, we kind of lived at the 20 for a little while and then just straight vertical. 2013, we mainly lived above the 20 week as well. So I would agree that I would love to see us above the 50, but I think the 20 week, the 140 daily is more important historically than the 50. We can look at, you know, I talked about this on one of the streams or one of the videos this week. Like, again, the 50 and the 200 EMA, like, we have a lot we could give back and still be fine. That's just how crazy this rally has been. It's just a matter of probabilities and assessing the risk. What is affecting us here more? Is it geopolitical? Is it inflation? Is it rate expectations? Is it bond volatility? Is it currency weakness? Is it everything? Is it legacy correlation? You know, I don't think we will see 50. Okay, I think that's comfortable to say. The reason I like 55, 56 is because in 2013 we tested the bottom of the cloud a couple times, you know, so I don't think that's out of the question. I'm still not too concerned about it overall. I think we look fine. Again, if we're early, like we have plenty to give back if we want to. So I don't think it's like the end of the world personally. Would I be 50x long here? No. Would I be 50x short here? No. I don't think there's anything to do necessarily as far as a trade setup. Close above a 50 in a bull market. Yeah, I can get behind that, Adam. If we close above the 50, it's you know, for you as an individual, not you, Adam, but in general, it's like, what are my signals that are useful that I'm going to trade off of? For me, it's going to be the cloud 100% of the time. Everything else is interesting, but like, is it enough to go super long margin? No, it's not for me. Other than like a chart pattern. Like we can look at, you know, the hourly here. What could this be? You know, I bet there's a bull div here if I have RSI. Do I? I don't have RSI in here. Let me just add RSI. Take that off, turn this to that. Okay. We'll go 4 hour. So there's a 4 hour bull div. We got a lower low. Okay, like is that enough to go long? I don't know. Is this anything here? I don't think so. Really? Like it's just chop. It's down chop, right? You're getting violent down moves, lower lows, lower highs. There may be a case for, again, an eventual like ultra messy inverted head and shoulders here. Anything above 64, you could take a stab. I don't have any confidence in any of that right now, personally. So we're just, technically we're still in the range. It's just very ugly, right? It's just very, very ugly. Anyways, that's the Bitcoin stuff on the high time frames. That's the short trade setup to look for, the long trade setup to look for. And that's kind of it. You know, we can talk about ETF stuff for a second. ETFs have been mainly negative for the past 4 days. And realistically, since, you know, kind of since the beginning of April, if we look at this on the weekly level, we just haven't had strong inflows, right? Like, we don't need inflows to do well. It's just, again, headwind, tailwind. Is this a headwind? It's certainly more of a headwind than a tailwind, you know? It's also a gauge on sentiment in general. You could argue the best time to buy Bitcoin is when it's down 20% on a week, but people are the least likely to probably pull the trigger on that. So it's not really helping us here, you know? GBTC is still flowing out. Let me find the chart that I made yesterday. GBTC outflows are still pretty strong, arguably, relative to what we've already seen. This thing is down 50% in BTC terms, which is great. It's down 50% in 3 months, 3.5 months, whatever. Like, send this to zero with haste. Like, get this out of here. Nobody wants this stuff. I don't care if people are selling and gone forever. I don't care if they're selling and go to another ETF. I just don't want to think about it anymore. Like, enough's enough. The fees are too high. It doesn't make sense. And that's that. You could also just say most of this is Barry Silbert selling or Grayscale entities selling. That's possible too. I don't know. If we look at the percentage, where is it at? The percentage of the total, this is probably the most important picture. GBTC is still about 37% in BTC terms of the total ETF picture. So the smaller this gets on a relative basis, the more irrelevant it becomes, and we can just, forget about it. Because realistically, no BTC should ever be coming into that product because of the fee differential. That's it. So it's good night on that one. I don't even think lowering fees would be enough because they would have to match something in the realm of like 0.2% or something, and that's just not going to happen. So, it's going to keep seeing outflows. We just need to neutralize those outflows better, which we haven't been doing. As far as what to buy, this is not investment advice, but I like BitB because they give back to the developers. I'm not a fan of ARK in general, so I'd avoid ARK personally. Fidelity is also fine. They self-custody. That's a different custodian than the rest of these, which use Coinbase. The issue with IBIT from a price perspective is arguably because they don't have the relationships that some of these others have, native crypto relationships that they trade with a premium or a discount a little wider on those bands than, say, a BitB or a Fidelity, FBTC, even some of these others, Burr. I'd have to look at the data again, but the last time I saw this, there was a bigger premium and discount on IBIT relative to everything else. It's probably never enough to matter, but just something to think about, right? So, will we see smaller outflows today? Maybe. Will we see bigger inflows today? Maybe. I don't know, right? We probably don't see inflows come back until we break all-time highs again. I don't think chopping around here is going to be enough. The other thing to think about is like what type of events could see flows if we have wirehouses coming online, Morgan Stanley, the others, I don't remember all the names, but that could bring in passive flows. If we see some sort of rate picture clearing up with the Fed, we could see flows one way or the other. If the risk on picture gets better, we could see flows. I just wouldn't expect too much from the flows personally until something else happens as a catalyst to bring that online. So if the bull market support band, whoa, we're not going to talk about that. That's illegal. How do we get to 30K, right? That's a worthwhile exercise. How do we get to 30K? We get to 30K by dumping. So there's currently, what is the current number? There's currently 12 billion in the ETFs, net, positive. If that comes out, or if we go from 12 billion to 9 billion or something, right? Then maybe we see significant lows. The outflows so far that we've seen from ARK and what is this, BTCO and BitB, we saw the first one yesterday. Those have been in the low tens of millions. We're at 12 billion in. Okay, so that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. We would have to see significant outflows on a relative basis, which is perfectly possible. I just don't think I don't think it's going to happen. You know, it's one thing to think about and to look at and to pay attention to, but I'm not in that camp personally. What else was on our list for today? Halving, power law, daily cloud, leverage long, ETF flows. Okay. Let's talk about legacy, because this kind of goes hand in hand with the liquidity conversation, et cetera, et cetera. I'll put this link in the description. Oops, sorry. I'll put this link in the description of the video, but this is the balance sheet, global balance sheets of global central banks that matter, including BOJ, including PBOC, including ECB. PBOC is in here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. So you kind of need to normalize this. Michael Howell is obviously the king of the global liquidity conversation, but you kind of need to normalize this for the dollar or something, so that you're on a level playing field. If we're just looking at the Fed balance sheet, the current rise, the alligator jaws that we've developed here make absolutely no sense, unless you're under the assumption that the market is super bullish because of rate cut expectations, which, okay, sure. If we include the TGA, if we include reverse repo, which I'll do in a second, then this liquidity versus S&P makes more sense. But this currently doesn't really tell the whole story, in my opinion. So you do need to look at more than just the balance sheet. BOJ, I don't know. I don't know what to say about the BOJ. I mean, it just looks like, how are you ever going to unravel all of this without destroying your currency? I don't think you are, personally. And here's their long-term government bond holdings. How does that ever go down? That's the issue with all of these central banks. This is why we Bitcoin. How does look at this Fed balance sheet. How does this ever come back down to the pre-COVID levels? Can it? I don't think so. Like, it would take just a huge global recession or something. I don't even know what this would cause, what the cause and effect would be, but I don't think that can ever come down. They're already talking about a QT taper. They're already talking about ending QT. What else we got here? Major central banks' total assets. So I guess this is back to the liquidity conversation. Total assets yearly percent changes. It would be nice to see the S&P on this chart as well, but this is kind of like the M2 conversation, year over year changes. What is this? China and Japan. See, this isn't even normalized for USD, so I don't know how useful it is, but we can look at this liquidity stuff, but I think the US liquidity is probably the most important. Here's the ECB, Fed, ECB, BOJ in dollars. It's coming down, right? But that doesn't tell you the whole story, so you do need to go a bit further. These are useful charts, though, for sure. And here is Fed, ECB, BOJ relative to the S&P. Again, does that tell the whole story? I'd argue no. Yes, we still have jaws here that need to be closed, probably, which says we're overbought on legacy, overbought on risk. What else? Anything else interesting here? Total assets, trillions of dollars. I think you get the point. But if we look at, not this chart, this one, no. This one, no. I had it somewhere. Is it here? Here we go. If we look at Fed balance sheet minus the TGA minus reverse repo, you are subtracting those because that's money that's not in the ecosystem. If we look at that calculation, then the liquidity picture makes a heck of a lot more sense. If we look at BTC versus this metric, it makes a lot more sense. If we look at, I can add like the S&P to this, it makes a lot more sense. New price scale. This isn't perfect, it's an estimation, right? It's just an idea to think about. Like, even still, I mean, this is of course a massive chart crime. I'm clearly just fitting this arbitrarily, but I think you get the point. The liquidity versus price stuff just even on this makes no sense whatsoever. It makes no sense. And that's including the TGA and reverse repo into the calculation. So is this like global cash infusion into US assets? Probably. But we are way above bounds on where you'd expect us to be at least, right? And the doomers calling something similar to COVID, right? Like we're gonna meet the liquidity level, and then they're gonna have to inject liquidity or something. I'm not quite there. I don't think that happens, but anyway, just something to think about on the liquidity side, because if we look at total 2, which is alt market cap, and again we're like curve fitting to the max here, right? If we look at total 2, even that is a little bit ahead of where you'd expect it to be, as the most generous estimate. We don't have to always be 1-to-1, but it makes sense that it rhymes a little bit, right? And it makes sense that post-COVID, that was the biggest impact. Clearly, there's some sort of correlation here. That's pretty tight, right? Pre-COVID, if we look at this, let's take this off. That's rates. Pre-COVID, it kind of made sense and kind of didn't. There wasn't, I would argue there's not as much of a correlation there. But post-COVID, it looks like the same chart to me, virtually, right? There's a lag here in the liquidity infusion making its way into Bitcoin and alts and whatever else. But since 2021, it's kind of the same chart, We can, again, we can curve fit this all we want, but it's very close to the same chart. So again, this tells me we have a little bit to give back. How does GDP factor in? Yeah, that's a good question. That's a Michael Howell question. You can include other stuff, GDP, GDI, I don't know, like all that other fun stuff. This is just like kind of back of the envelope, super loose calculation. But this stuff relative to the balance sheet makes a lot more sense to me, which is where some of the bears got in trouble. They weren't incorporating the reverse repo stuff into their liquidity estimates, and they just assumed that the Fed balance sheet running off is going to be bearish for everything, but they didn't take all the 2 trillion, 3 trillion of reverse repo into account. Anyway, so yes, liquidity is rising, has been, but we're still way above expectations. If this, what would you expect here, right? You'd expect prices to drop relative to liquidity if liquidity keeps dropping. Now, if liquidity gets added to the system, pump it, baby. Pump all the memes, pump everything, right? But this says we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, depending on how you want to fit this. I'm sure there are like year-over-year correlations you can look at, but we are clearly above. On the alt side, on the Bitcoin side, we can look at this over and over again, but we have a little to give back, right? You could say there's an ETF effect here. Yeah, but if this metric in this equation turns down, then we are likely to go lower. And that goes back to the reverse repo conversation, because the reverse repo is almost empty. TGA will fill with tax receipts this week. So we'll get that number. I think it's out in like 30 minutes. No, it's out in like an hour and a half. In like an hour and a half, we'll know what the TGA is. And that's going to pull this number lower until the money goes back into the ecosystem via, you know, debt spending or whatever else. So it's just like, you know, we have a little to give back, right? We're a little bit ahead of schedule. And I think that's why this legacy stuff is looking the way it looks. You know, the dollar, talk about the dollar first. Dollar looks extremely strong. You know, if this were any other chart and you caught this thing at 104, anywhere in 104, you'd say, yeah, I'm turbo bullish on this. Look at how bullish this is. It's way above the daily cloud. You could say it's a little overbought, but if we break highs on this, if we break 107, all hell is going to break loose on a lot of stuff. Risk assets go lower, yields probably go higher, UJ probably explodes. So this is like the up here is like, you know, this is like failed experiment type stuff for crypto, for alts especially. If we are up here above 107, it is over, okay, in the near term. So we do not want to see that. Some people were commenting on the low time frame, like head and shoulders possibility here, I guess. But man, on the daily, this thing looks excellent to me for the bull case. All the more reason not to be leveraged long on crypto right now. We really do not want to see this thing keep going. We really don't want to see it keep going. Flipping to the S&P, if we go to the daily here, you know, again, this stuff, it looks horrifically awful relative to BTC, relative to, like, this is the S&P. S&P down almost 5% from the highs. Like, let's be clear, it's not the end of the world, but the momentum is clearly not here. The momentum is gone. We have not reached any targets on the upside yet. This could recover, right? This could look better eventually. But it's the same story as August 2023. Bearish TK cross, price closes in the cloud eventually in September, and then it's a rough ride September, October. So this is, I'm more worried about this than crypto, because if the bottom falls out of legacy and we see, I don't know, 47, 4,800, like, it's not the end of the world, but in the near term, it would be the end of the world for crypto. That would be very bad. 47 to 4,800. Now you could argue, like, we're in an election year, the Fed's not going to let the markets fall out. Okay, fine. But we need to see the house on fire first for the Fed to step in and do anything, if they are going to do anything. But this does not look bullish to me. That's very concerning. And it may recover, but man, that does not look good. And then the Qs look even worse. This is tech stocks. You have a bearish TK cross yesterday and or today. You had a close inside the cloud. It did not look good. No bueno, okay? Similar to August, September, October, we could have a fun time through the cloud here. Momentum is clearly gone. Clearly, right? So, you know, I'm more worried about this collapsing the Bitcoin side than anything, because we're probably not going to be inversely correlated with NASDAQ. So if legacy looks terrible, why do you think the BTC bottoms around 50? So I think BTC has already given back 20%. S&P's given back about 5%. Like, what is so that's what, a 4-to-1 ratio? Like, let's say we give back another 5 on the S&P, okay? Another 5 on the S&P would be another 20 potentially, right? Another 20 would bring us to 50 on BTC, assuming there's some sort of 4-to-1 relationship there. So that's why I think BTC bottoms around 50. Again, if we don't bottom at 52, 54 on the 20 week, that's also very bad for BTC. So I just think you really have to be careful with the legacy stuff here. And I was very right on legacy. You can look back at the videos. I'm not one of these people to pat myself on the back, but I was very right about 2023. I was very right about the cup and handle in later on in 2023. When everybody was bearish in 2022, I was saying, guys, we're above the daily cloud. There was also this like this diagonal line meme that people were talking about. People were talking about the 5200 cross. So I've nailed this on the legacy side. Okay, I'm not saying like trust me, listen. I could care less, but I just think there's been a lot of doomers for like 18 months. So anytime I hear anything bearish, I got to be really careful. Like, have those people been paying attention? Like, have they been bullish at all? So this looks concerning to me. That's all for BTC. And then IWM, let me find a chart. We can look at that. Sorry, let's go here. The other thing real quick too is gold. Gold, it's funny, the narrative last week was, oh man, there's a conspiracy. There's a conspiracy chat. Gold never moves this quick. This is the 80th percentile of 6-month moves. Something's gonna blow up. You know, okay, sure. Like, I get it. You're looking at previous data, but anybody who's paying attention to technicals has looked at this thing for years and said, yeah, it's going to break this quadruple top eventually, right? Like, so I don't think it's crazy to see what we're seeing. It's in the wheelhouse of expectations. That's it. I don't think there's some mass conspiracy here. It's just funny that if price is flat and ranging, it's a conspiracy. If gold is going down, it's a conspiracy. If gold is up, it's a conspiracy. Like, can it just be, I don't know, not a conspiracy if gold is doing anything? It's just funny. IWM. Somebody was asking about IWM. IWM would be the most rate sensitive sector. IWM to me also looks pretty god awful. Crushing its way through the daily cloud, bearish TK cross probably today. This is less of an issue than the longer term picture because it's held this level for a little while as resistance, briefly broke above that, and now has immediately rejected all the way back down. So, you know, where does this go in this zone? You could say maybe 182 would be the 50% retrace. But, you know, this is like, I guess if you like trading the range, you're happy, but this chart looks real bad. Just years of dead money, years of going nowhere. You know, maybe you're trading the range and you want things down sub 170 and then you let go at 200, whatever. Okay, fine. But trend wise, there's no trend here. This looks very bearish to me. Talked about DXY, UJ. So the thing with UJ, you have to remember again, we all live in a world where things are connected. If you're the BOJ, previously at 150, they were intervening by selling what they had in the treasury, which was US treasuries, to strengthen JPY relative to USD. Recently, they said they're no longer going to do that. Okay, fine. So now what? Are they just going to let this thing continue like a runaway freight train? Maybe. There's been some speculation that at 155, they might have to do something. So that's kind of the line in the sand at the moment. But if we look at this as a ascending triangle, this is just getting started, right? Like the devaluation of the JPY based on technicals should continue. So the question is, where does the BOJ do anything, if they do anything at all, or is it just over, right? Like is it just over for the JPY, which might be the case. Somebody was asking about XLE, pretty nasty reversal after weeks of bullishness, so kind of to be expected. As somebody who's on the long side of this, I don't want to see this breaking the throwback level, which would be here. So if I'm looking to add to a position, it would be somewhere in here. You know, if you're going to shoot your shot, right, it's going to be back at the break-even level or whatever. If we measure this as an ascending triangle and we think this is going higher, then it's got a ways to go. So it's just a risk conversation, you know. So if you're bullish energy for whatever reason, if you're bullish the sector, you could say, here's my minimum target, here's my like stop loss level. Not a great risk reward here, but it's not terrible. And again, you don't want to, like, I don't know, pick some level in here as a stop loss, but you don't want to swim back below the ascending triangle after the breakout. That's less than ideal. COPEX, which is copper, has retraced up and down at this point. Another chart I like because of the chart pattern. Similar to gold, it spent years doing nothing, right? Depending on how and where you want to measure this, the daily, the weekly, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's all the same thing. Clearly, there's levels here that are a chart pattern. Still looks great. Still has plenty of upside. Depending on where you'd put a stop, maybe you'd put a stop like below 42. I don't know, but I'm long this at the moment. I think it looks great. You got to give it time. Legacy stuff takes time. Takes time. What about the 20-week on BTC and ES? Yeah, I talked about the 20-week a lot, RJ. On ES, it's probably doesn't look great for the 20-week. So what else? Jasmine, okay. Anyway, so that's some of the legacy stuff. Legacy crypto stuff we can look at. I was just looking at this is the ETF chart. The ETF chart is starting to get enough data that you can trade on. You know, if you're just looking, like, where could IBIT go, right? IBIT could, maximally bearish, go 27.29. That's where I would have to move some cash into ETFs at that point. You know, I don't know what that level would be on spot, probably 52.50 level, right? But never be afraid to look at the ETF legacy stuff. BitX is another one to look at, which is the 2x leveraged ETF, high to low, 26 to 30, kind of a similar spot. Can I put an alert? I'm going to put an alert at 33. Just to remind me. If we get down there, then I think it's worth thinking about leverage stuff again. All right, Mag 7 real quick. Again, all of this stuff just looks... It doesn't have to go to 0, but the momentum is clearly not there anymore, you know? Whether or not this is an inverted Adam and Eve, a double, triple top head and shoulders thing, it just doesn't look good. The cloud agrees with you. Clearly we were above the Tenkin for 3 months, and now we're not. Okay, so that's enough of that. SMCI to me looks very bearish still. Until this breaks down into the cloud, it's neutral, it can recover. Clearly it's quote unquote bullish, but this chart pattern is not bullish at all. Microsoft taking a dive today, taking a dive the past couple of days. Yes, it's above the cloud, but you know, this is the longable stuff, and we're just starting. We are in July of potentially what we might see. So there's nothing to do here, right? There just isn't. Amazon, kind of the same thing. Not as bearish. Looks okay, but doesn't look like a long here. Meta, I keep saying this. I have no idea what you do with this chart because it is just so quickly overbought, just kind of sitting up here. Almost like SMCI and Nvidia. I think this needs to come down quite a bit before people get excited. Google on low time frames is just chop. High time frames, I like the cup and handle possibility. Let's be conservative. You know, let's say maybe we didn't get the handle yet. Maybe we did. I don't know. It looks better to me than everything else in the Mag 7. Netflix, again, like what are you doing up here with this? It just feels so late in the game. I think all this stuff needs to come down. Apple still looks tragically awful to me. They tried to pump with some AI headline. It's below the daily cloud. That's enough said, you know? If we go to the weekly, you've got a weekly bear cross on the TK lines there. That's it, you know? There's nothing to do here. If we want to be bearish on this double top, we could say we want 148, 138, something in here. But this is not a long anywhere on any time frame. There's no way. And if you want to talk about not a long, Tesla has never looked worse. It's just, it looks so awful continuously. The headlines are awful. You know, I mean, look, it's not above the daily cloud. What else is there to say? That's it. That's the whole ball game. We're below a falling wedge. It's a new, I think it's a new multi-month low. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And I don't want to offend anybody who's holding Tesla here, but you just know there's a lot of dumb money in Tesla. You just know. I mean, look at this parabolic puke. Most of the Mag 7 had this, to be clear. But this just tells me there's a lot of retail who is on the wrong side, emotionally trading, whatever. And that's kind of just starting. So I think this could get more bearish. I say that every week, but it's you know, it's black and white. It's below the daily cloud. That's it. Let's go crypto adjacent. Square. Square's in the weekly cloud, just chopping around. Doesn't look great. Doesn't look amazing. Looks fine. It's back in the range. Kind of like IWM where it peaked above and then got rejected. I don't think there's anything to do here. Just got to wait it out. Hood, just got to wait it out again. There's nothing to do. I think a neckline retest or whatever, breakout retest would be a place to add to positions, but I don't think there's anything to do up here. Coin is a tricky one. They have earnings at the end of the month, or at the beginning of, I think it's the same day as FOMC, right? It looks okay. Earnings are expected to be really good because of the layer 2 base stuff. But, what do you do here? I don't know. I think it looks fine. If BTC goes to 50K, coin will not be spared. Coin probably goes lower. I think, your best bet is always going to be the bullish breakouts on the daily. Even back here. That's where you want to be a participant. Here, it's just kind of, I don't know. I don't have much to say. What else we got? MSTR. MSTR is another one. Similar to coin, the best entry is, people assume like, oh, it's up, it's up, what is it up? Hold on. This is just like alts. It's up 250% in 2 months. It's down 40% in 2 weeks or whatever. This is a great entry. That may be true, but I don't think so. We take the high, take the low. If it gets below 1,000, that's where I think you take a chance. But it needs time, Momentum clearly not on your side. Bitcoin momentum not helping. We can pop on the pitchfork. I think, is this the pitchfork I use? I think so. So I said previously that this probably wants to come back to the midpoint of the pitchfork. So that's in line with the fibs. I don't know. I like 1,000. Give me 1,000 and I'll be happy. But this has all of the droop. Just all of the droop. Look at this on low time frames and tell me that's not ugly. That is ugly. That is very ugly. Very ugly. How can I not be bullish with having on 420? I mean, yeah, I don't know. How can I not be? So all this bearish stuff in legacy needs to resolve before crypto really has a chance, I think. WGMI is atrociously range bound at the moment. Most of the miners are all over the place. WGMI has like a 10% NVIDIA allocation, so you got to be careful there. If you're bearish NVIDIA, just keep that in mind. This isn't just miners. It's a little bit of some other stuff. TSM, I think, is in there too. This chart, what do you even do, I think what I usually just have is like a trend line here, and that's it. What else is there to say? Low time frames have been pretty bearish. And similar to Tesla, there's a lot of interesting people who trade miners. Let's just say it like that. It's a great range trade. It's a great swing trade. I don't think this is a great long-term hold necessarily, but if you're convicted on something like CleanSpark, doesn't look horrible. It's just I wouldn't bet the farm on some tier 16 miner that they're going to turn it around, okay? I don't know about that. CleanSpark looks fine on the weekly. Mara does not look fine on the weekly. It's still in the weekly cloud. It's back to the breakout level. It's not over, but you definitely don't want to see a weekly close below the cloud. So into later in the year, into Q4, you know, maybe you play this from like 18 to 44 or something. I don't even know where you put an alert on this. I guess you could like put an alert on the cloud. Yeah, I don't know. It needs time, you know. Now there's stuff like Riot. This could be Marathon's future. I doubt it. People are under the assumption that because everything pumped last halving, right? You've got an N of 1. You're saying, oh man, things pumped last halving. They have to pump again. Even the halving before that, if Riot was even Riot, right? Okay, so that's an N of 2. Congrats. I don't know. It doesn't. It could recover, but it doesn't look great. This is a very, very ugly chart. It has been ugly for a while. It's deviated from the rest of the market for a while. I'm not a fan of Riot. IREN on the weekly, I had been saying potential inverted head and shoulders. It looks fine. It looks okay. You definitely don't want to make lower lows here. And it might just need time into the end of the year. Stronghold was down 26% yesterday. I've talked about this one before, but this I would qualify this as a tier 16 miner. Okay, like I don't know all of the ins and outs of what's going on with this company, but this is something that could legitimately just go to zero. So I think you got to be very careful with something that looks like this. It's rich or wrecked, right? It's like a binary option. If you think they're going to survive, sure, but I wouldn't touch this until we're back above here at like 8. So again, I'll put a sorry about that. I'll put an alert at the cloud level, but yeah, doesn't look good for Stronghold. Hut also below the daily, probably. Yeah, just nothing but chop, you know. Wolf to me looks okay. You know, again, similar to IREN, like if we're at least at the mean reversion level here and we're chopping around, I'll take that. I'll take that. But what you don't want to be a Hut or a Riot in this situation where it just looks like death. Like this whole thing, like it could go nowhere, right? You don't know, but if you're bullish, sure. Wolf looks better to me than most everything else. Gree kind of looks like K-Web to me, which is the Chinese internet ETF, where it like you'd think this is going to have this inverted head and shoulders possibility, and then it just kind of pukes. So this is probably on the level of SDIG, where it's binary rich or wrecked. This is like miner adjacent. It's a what is it? Power plant or something. I can't remember the details. People are gonna skewer me in the comments, but maybe AI saves this thing. I don't know. I just think you have to be careful. Yes, I'll look at GMX. Yada. I'm telling you right now, the chart in my head is not bullish on GMX, but we'll look at it. Is there any other miner people want me to look at? I don't think so. What do you think of BTC cost production as the floor for price? Yeah, somebody else asked me that a couple days ago. The issue with that, I think it's on Look Into Bitcoin. Is it? Maybe it isn't. hash rate, miner fees. There's an indicator on TradingView for it, but I don't know if it's current. Miner break even or something? No. Miner. I thought Capriol had that on here too. Bitcoin production cost. So I don't know if this is up to date based on the flatness of the data. It might not be, but currently the break even is around 50K. On the high side, I'm just assuming this isn't up to date. Let me check two more places real quick. So the miner mag is one place. Capriol himself has a bunch of charts we can look at. Let's just try to find it here while this loads. Is it energy? No. Okay, so this looks up to date. I'll put this in the description of the video. I can't zoom in, unfortunately, but the bottom, or sorry, the top 64, the bottom 38. After halving, this will go up, right? Yeah. So if we look at what happened after last halving, so come 420 tomorrow, whatever, 2 days from now. Here was the other halving back here. We will be in the wheelhouse of the range. So I guess we'll have to revisit this. I'll look at this again Sunday as far as production cost, but it should bump way up into current price. The miner mag also has individual calculations based on the quarterly filings. Anybody at the higher end is certainly at more risk relative to the lower end. And again, like SDIG, like why is SDIG collapsing? There's got to be a business reason, fundamental reason. Marathon's kind of inefficient. That's why, as big as they are, they're still kind of up here on the implied cost of production. So even this isn't matching Capriol's calculations, which aren't necessarily one-to-one anyway, but you know, those are the two places I'd look at that. Just reading chat here. All right, I think that's it for Legacy in the last 30. Let's look at alts, because why not? Why not? Why the flip not? Never a good sign. Whenever I look at the volumes on Kraken, I always look at who's number one on the day. If a stablecoin is number one on the day, that's usually a risk-off type environment. Let me just remind myself for Sunday. I want to look at funding. I'm going to look at miner cost. I'm actually using a pen from Bitwise. My stream freeze. Anyway, I'm using a pen from Bitwise. They have good pens. Anyway, Tether at the top here. Anyway, that's that. Solana. I mean, look, all of this stuff. For me, I need it above the daily cloud. That's kind of it. So until we're there, or just like completely selling off, everybody's throwing up their arms and capitulating, volumes are exploding, funding is turbo negative, like that's what I care about. Here, this, you know, like look, we can get excited about a bounce. I saw Brian Ledger say something about going long Solana and stepping away for the summer. Okay, like that's one strategy, but the trend metrics here are not favorable for that assumption just yet. We'll put it like that. This hasn't had a close below the cloud yet on the daily, actually. So it's recoverable. I don't think it's longable here personally, based on cloud stuff. ETH, the exact same boat. You know, this is the potential future for Bitcoin through the daily cloud. With ETH, it happened in a day. You know, it happened in a day. We closed back above. This is neutral as far as the trend and the cloud are concerned, but not a long for me. I'm under the assumption that all of this is going to reset on some time frame. Could be the daily, but there's nothing to do here for me. It needs to look like October, basically, again, on the daily for me to care. There's just nothing here. That's kind of it. You know, there's not really much to do based on trend. Doge. I would be careful with Doge here. Trend obviously isn't favorable, but what you don't want is this head and shoulders possibility, a larger head and shoulders, right? Or you do if you're bearish, whatever. But trend is not on Doge's side there on the daily. And on the weekly, a lot of this stuff down the market cap list is either slightly above the weekly cloud, reached its weekly cloud target, or still chopping around at the bottom of the weekly cloud. So all of those collectively aren't really trades either. You know, again, I keep bringing up Q4 because that's where the cloud says we might have a real chance at having a run sometime in Q4. But high time frames, this thing doesn't look great for continuation right here. ARB, somebody wanted me to look at ARB. Again, if this is an airdrop, if this is a governance token, if this is ETH beta, if this has massive unlocks, if this has developers selling, which ARB is literally all of those boxes, you know, you get what you pay for. I don't know what to do with this here because it certainly is turbo bearish. It's very oversold. It's back to, you know, it's retraced all of the gains it made over the past 6 months, effectively. I would still wait personally until this is above the daily cloud. So this is definitely a do not touch. The problem is I know people asking me about this are probably holding this and have been holding this. So you just got to make a decision. Either you're a community member, or you die a hero and you cut it. Okay, like those are the options. If you're bullish in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, then I think you just do nothing and you wait. But I wouldn't expect any miracles here anytime soon. Unless ETH is magically bullish, right? ETH has to be bullish first. FET, same thing, you know. All these charts, legacy, the majors, everything just needs time to go neutral to bullish, go neutral to bearish to bullish, whatever. There's nothing here. If I was long from 66 cents, I would be out here, or any lower low, I'd just be done. Same thing from 23 to 64, right? The trade, you're just waiting for the next trade. If you're swing trading this definitely leans more bearish than bullish. That's it. Not saying it can't go to 10 in 18 months. It's just right now it's not bullish. So the easiest trade is just to wait for price above the cloud. And on Kraken, you can also set alerts. If I was logged in, you just right click the chart, set an alert, and that's it. Just wait. Pepe, because why not? And you can go through these charts in 2 seconds and just see, like, okay, bearish. Like, where could this go? Like, a lot of these meme coins could go all the way back to the breakout levels I think they could give that back pretty easily. So I wouldn't touch this because, again, you've got people who've missed the run. They're like, oh man, it's a meme coin. Meme coins are hot, whatever. But I don't think there's anybody here. Nobody's home right now on meme coins. That's it. It's not bullish. It's got to be back above the cloud. Ripple, why not? For white chocolate, Mr. White Chocolate, you know what? This hasn't been bullish since October 2021, realistically. So I don't know what the argument is there. ICP, that was on the list. Let's take a look on the daily. So on the daily, I would actually turn off the cloud. It's neutral. Okay, it's not really helping you out here. But this could be a megaphone. I don't think this resolves bullish. I don't think. I don't know. I don't think there's a trade here, but I don't know. Just trying to think about it. That's it, right? It's neutral, it's ranging, it's a megaphone. If this makes a lower low, if this is, you know, below the daily club, below the megaphone support, I would be very careful. When would you advise allocating back into meme coins or alts in general? So this is not investment advice, but I would give it 100 days after halving. That's what I would do. So, you know, make a spreadsheet, 20 days, 40 days, 60 days, 80 days, 100 days, DCA in to whatever you want, weight that heavier into day 100, and that's it. I wouldn't even look at these charts, honestly, because I would just assume that they are falling off the table. If we look at Doge with the halving dates, you know, this is the actual alpha, right? Back to the power law corridor conversation. Here's halving. Where did Doge break out? 250 days after halving. 200 days after halving. Okay. Halving hasn't happened yet. So let's say we want to, we'll just pretend halving is here. Here is 200 days. Guess what? That is in basically October. So here's what I'd do. If I wanted to DCA meme coins, this is what I would do. Between this week and October, you know, you literally just say each week, each month, or whatever, however you want to do it. How many weeks is that? What's that quick math? 210 divided by 7. 30 weeks. Perfect. Okay. So you could set up a spreadsheet where you could say week, you know, week whatever, and I want to buy you know, Doge, maybe Pepe, maybe Whiff, maybe what else? Bowden, sure. What else we got? What other junk? I don't know, XYZ, right? And you literally just say, and the last column would be cash, right? Okay, and here's your meme coin portfolio alpha. Each week you take some out of the cash, you allocate it how you'd want to into your favorite memes, and you week 30 you are fully allocated. Let's say you want 20% this, 20% this, 10% this, right? Whatever, you get the point. 10, let's say 15, 10, I don't care, whatever it is, right? And by October, you're holding none of that cash, and you are fully invested into memes. You know, this is such a great idea. This will probably spawn a video. It's a great idea in principle. Probably not a great investing idea, but I'm always looking for videos for Teaching Tech Tuesday. So this will be a video next week. I'll literally do this and I'll show you. We'll take some money. What should we do? 10,000? 5,000? I don't know. Give me a number. We'll take a number. We will do this. We will literally do this for 30 weeks. Meme port. Okay. 10K. Done. We're gonna do it, boys. 10K. 1,000 would be your average retail. All right, we could do 1,000. We will do this. I will figure it out, and we'll make it a video. Anyway, that's what I would do. I wouldn't even look at the price. So while you are DCAing the junk, right? You want prices to go lower. You want prices to crash. Okay, that's what you want. Anyway, the next step is of course making your favorite list of meme coins, but that's how I would do it. We're gonna do it live. We're gonna do it live. we're gonna do it live with some portfolio. All right. Where were we? ICP, we talked about near. Again, all this stuff. It's just unexciting, neutral. Just needs time, right? Hopefully this cloud stuff helps kind of put you on the right track. At least it does for me. That way I don't have to read white papers or pay attention to announcements. It's just irrelevant, you know, like LTC has this massive diagonal support that, you know, again, like if we want to be real about when is stuff going to pop off, it's probably going to be Q4 again. Like if the TA here is realistic at all, Q4. I think Sid, they're talking about 1,000 over 30 weeks. I assume, you know, 30K into memes. That's a 30. Here's the other part, right? 30K into memes while the rates are 5%. Like that's a pretty big gamble. IMO. Sure, you know, we'll make it whatever we want. I'll put some addresses up and we'll audit it together. I probably have to move some money over to Solana at some point, but anyway, we'll do it live. I just think Q4, like if you want to prepare for whatever, Q4 is how you want to do it. So yeah, LTC, there's nothing there. TIA, this thing, TIA just absolutely fell off the wagon. One other thing about Kraken Pro, if you don't have a Pro TradingView account, you actually have less functionality than just going into Kraken Pro and playing around with the timeframes and whatever else. There's more stuff here than a free TradingView account. And as you can see, I'm not even logged in, so you can always use Kraken Pro. Obviously, they want you to have an account and trade there, which I do, but I'm just saying, you can use TradingView, right? Like an upgraded version of TradingView on Kraken Pro. You know, look, it's not bullish. It's anytime you see this, just run, okay? No, we do not want to see a rainbow on our chart. We do not want to see this convexity or whatever it is. No, bearish, okay? Needs to be making higher highs instead of higher lows for sure. AVAX, I think that was on the list. AVAX, not great. not great. Far below the daily cloud. All this stuff, like, it doesn't even need to make lower lows. It's just clearly not bullish anymore. That's it. So the two trade examples are literally smacking you in the face that you're looking for. They just happened. We're not anywhere close to that right now. So it just needs time. Whiff. People keep asking me about whiff. Whiff. Whiff is a woof. Hat stays off. Neutral in the cloud, not above any cloud that matters. This may play out as like an Adam and Eve. I don't know. That's my best guess here on low time frames. It's just it's got the rich person's disease or whatever. It's got influenza. All of these have influenza. Affluenza. They are up. This isn't even the low, but this is just the Kraken listing. Stop it, Kraken. That's more trading view than Kraken. This is up 2,800% at the highs. From February, it is still up 1,400% since February. I get it. It's the birth of a new paradigm. I get it. I think this could give back a bit more over time. And if NASDAQ and S&P is bearish and the dollar is turbo bullish, the meme coins will not survive. There will be no survivors. There will be no survivors, Jorge. Who else asked me about WIF? There will be no survivors. So if you're here for the next 5 minutes and you want to move from $2.60 to $3, yeah, that could happen. But over the next 6 months, I don't think so, Jorge. I don't think so. I don't think so. INJ, this is for Gosp. Now, to be clear, he was on the INJ. If you watch some of these streams from like, I don't know when I started streaming. I guess July. Maybe even before then. He was on the INJ bandwagon super early. But again, we've got affluenza. We are up thousands of percent very quickly. And we are now below the daily cloud. So, this is not a long. Just got to be careful. If you've got conviction, don't let me tell you any different. But this is not, doesn't have a bullish trend, clearly, right? Gosp says, good spot here, boss. I laugh, but he said that at $3 and we're at 28. So who's laughing? Who's laughing now? Gosp is laughing. It's just there are better entries, right? Even from 3, from 2. I know we talked about this ascending triangle. I know we talked about this breakout. Those were just better. There were just better times to trade this. So you'll probably get a better opportunity than current price with higher conviction than just like throwing darts at the chart and hoping that this goes up. That's all I'm saying. Somebody asked about Say. Say is kind of like INJ. It had a big run, closed into the cloud, closed below the cloud. Everything on low time frames is trying to bottom. You can see hints of that. If we go to Bitcoin for a second, similar, right? We're trying to get double bottomy on low time frames. Sol. So, quickly low time frames, we might see a bounce. We're down a lot, but the trend broadly is not on your side, for sure. Now you could argue, you could say, well, Josh, you know, this is down 64% in a month. I'm gonna take a stab here, okay? You can have your technical analysis and all, but I'm gonna take a stab here. Go for it. Like, don't let me stop you. Because I agree, it gave back a lot. I just think everything could give back a little bit more. You know, that's all. Yeah, I can look at sand. What was someone asked about a list, or was it? Just reading chat. Here we go. Say Sui Fud is Fud. I don't think Fud is a coin, is it? Sui is the same. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the cloud stuff, take 5 minutes and just understand that the best entries are always going to be on trend. The trend is confirmed with price above cloud, bullish cloud. Okay, so you always want the chart to look like this. The next best option is bullish TK recross, which you even had, but it didn't hold with everything else. Okay, so trend-wise, you have neither of that at the moment. So I would love to see the cloud here reset, which it's going to. And then you come back in a month or two and you get the same type of entry. The price level is irrelevant. It's just where does the price break out of the cloud? That might be 160, it might be 130, I don't know. That's what I'm looking for. This here, I don't know what this is. This was down. This was down 60% as well. Just like say, you know, if you like it, sure, but trend is not on your side there. I don't know if Kraken has pups. They do not. FUD, they do not. H, Asui? I don't know what that is. I don't know what those other ones are. Sorry. What else would you say we wanted to talk about? Let me just move this over here so I have it. We got is Anchor on here. It is same thing as Say and Sui. I like it better above the daily cloud. It almost looks like Doge. This whole thing is a mess. It's a giant mess. It's just, I don't know, like, you know, it tried to break out. Clearly there was an attempt at whatever this trend line is here. Horizontal support resistance. I think if you're trading this stuff, you just have to give it time. It kind of already hit the target of this consolidation. I don't know. Like, I think you're better off waiting until Q4, personally. ICP, H-bar, we looked at those, right? I think we looked at H-bar. It's not on Kraken. ICP, I know we looked at this one. Yeah. Render, we'll look at Render. Render had this breakdown below the cloud. Same story, you know. You're looking for two things. You're looking for this, or you're looking for this, and you've got that. So that's not for me. Bear case for this would be like 316 or something. Just not for me on high time frames. On low time frames, you clearly have this Adam and Eve double bottom stuff going on. GRT. GRT. Same story, right? Below the cloud. Low time frame Adam and Eve. That's it. You know, it's not bullish on trend. It's trying to recover. Looks fine on low time frames. Filecoin, same story. That one looks like more of a bear flag than anything, but I've really just been watching this on the weekly. On the weekly, it's still in the cloud. It's got, again, this like horizontal resistance thing. It tried to break out of, failed entirely. Just, you know, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to recover, but what do you do with it here? I don't know. Am I adding to my position? No. It just is what it is. I'm just going to let it sit there and rot for all I care, but it's going to take time. Apt, I don't know what it is on here. Aptos, probably like the others, if I had to guess. Just, you know, look, again, it's down. It was down 60% in a month. People, I'm sure, are going to argue, like, this, to be clear, this is not a cup and handle, but people are going to say it's a cup and handle. So sure, why not? Why not? You know, I'll get excited about this thing above the daily cloud. Above 13 and I can get excited. That's when you have more conviction that this probably keeps going. But here, it's a gamble. That's all. ADA was called out as the bottom is in. Somebody said in chat. If the bottom isn't in, we can go back and find out who that was. But it's in the weekly cloud. Nothing to say, really. ADA BTC, now that is entirely another matter because we are in all-time low territory. Now, this is not an all-time low, but it doesn't look great against Bitcoin, right? If you're being honest with yourself, you want to look at all this stuff relative to BTC. All right, a few more, and then we'll get out of here. Farm, somebody asked about. I mean, I don't know, guys. Like, the question I always ask: would I buy it here? Again, no. It needs to be like a breakout. Okay. Is there any other like evidence for anything else? I guess you could say like inverted head and shoulders kind of hit the target already. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say, right? You could say, well, maybe there's like one of these like channel things going on. I don't know. I don't think there's a trade there for me. Jasmine, somebody asked about. See, this I like more from a trade perspective because you had your range, you had years of death and nothing, you had your breakout, we're reconsolidating up here, we zoom in, is there anything, basically it's BTC, right? It's kind of head and shoulders, whatever. I think if this breaks out, that's a trade worth taking. You could measure the range conservatively and just say that what's the next target, 4 to 5 cents. That's the next like swing target on the pattern. Doesn't look horrible, I'll give you that. I'd rather trade this than farm. Now this against Bitcoin, probably it's pretty clear. All right, fair enough to Jasmine. It's above the 3-day cloud, which is saying something. Again, you've got kind of a low time frame. Tight flag or something. So you could say, well, if this breaks up, then I like it. Yeah, it's certainly not bearish. Looks better than most anything I've looked at today, I can tell you that much. GMX, yes, GMX. GMX, oof. Oof. I guess it is on Kraken. Is there like a... There we go. GMX. The bottom really fell out of that, huh? I think last time Arthur did dump this on people, I'm pretty sure. Didn't he say he bought like USDE or something? Last time we looked at this, we were talking about the inverted head and shoulders potential, but it never broke out. So, you know. And I am a user of GMX. I like GMX, but this is the BTC chart. Whew. Yeah. All right, any last minute? Let me catch up with stream, then we'll... Can you chat legacy markets on Kraken Pro or only tickets traded on Kraken? I think you mean crypto, right? I didn't go over XMR. We can look at that one. Yeah, RIP GMX holders. Man, that is a yikes and a half right there. XMR on the weekly still quite sad and droopy. There's nothing to do, and against BTC it looks pretty awful. Is that an all-time low? I don't actually know, but it's not great. It's not great against Bitcoin. It's not great. I looked at Link, right? I think. I mean, Yada, the GMX guy, again, I just hope these people aren't holding. I hope they're asking me because they're like, oh, wow, look how much Monero is down against BTC. Is this a buy? Versus, oh man, I've been holding this thing for 2 years and it's gone nowhere and now it's at a new multi-year low. You know, I really hope that's not the case, but I fear that's the case. Dave says Monero's always a buy. Check out Link. I did check out Link, didn't I? I thought I did. I mean, I've been out of Link since 21. I don't know what to say. It's, you know, it's not pretty. It's not pretty, okay? It's not pretty. Well, that's the problem, Dave. It's like LTC. Like, yeah, I can use it and transact, but I don't need to hold it. I don't need to marry it. I don't need to be a community member. Link looks like everything else. It's way below the daily cloud. It probably bounces a little bit. You really hope you do not get this head and shoulders possibility. If you do, like if everything gets bearish, Link will easily, hear me now, Marines, hear me now. Link will easily go back to sub 8. That's my prediction. I just rubbed the crystal ball in my head. Okay, I threw the chicken bones on the desk, and if Bitcoin goes to 52K, Link will be down here. Link will be sub 10. It will be sub 8, probably. Okay. So you better hope that BTC does not go to 52. Okay. This is not a pretty chart at all. Not a pretty chart. All right, one more. We'll do one more. Tau. Is Tau on here? It is not. Maybe, no, it's not. Tau. Should I do it against BTC first? Should I rip off the Band-Aid? Let's just go. All right, that doesn't inspire confidence thus far. Doesn't look great. Certainly not something I would want to sell the most ultrasound hardest money in the world for. Also not great on the daily chart or 4-hour chart. I just think everything's down like 60% on the alt side. Just because it's down a lot doesn't mean it's automatically a buy. You just got to be careful. You're going to have days like this. I mean, look, you know, let's go to the mine. This is a company. This is a real world meat space company, Stronghold Digital. They were down 26% yesterday. The day before that, they were down, or what is this? One of the time periods, 29% into 28%. Just because something is down a lot doesn't mean it's a buy. Okay, and this could be the all-time low for SDIG. I don't know, but you just got to be careful with that stuff. Yes, high volume is what you want to see. SDIG again as the the teaching example. You didn't see a lot of volume there. We can go to TIA just because somebody brought it up again. Okay, volume is up. Yes, you get a giant wick. Great. It's still not for me. It's not for me. TIA has no use. Well, okay, so yes, I did say that, and yes, I think that's true, first of all. But the other side of that argument is, no, Josh, here's the data showing people using the chain. I haven't seen anybody bring that. I haven't really looked for that information, but nobody has come to me and said, hey, here's all this robust use case. We're not seeing that. Here's the last thing I'll say about TIA. There's kind of a descending falling wedge thing going on here. Just another interesting, I don't know, interesting like channel puke to watch for. Sounds like Yada. Yada just said high volume on GMX. He's hoping for seller capitulation. I think we have a community member here, folks. I think. All right, that's it. That's all I got in me. The altcoin crowd has called for my head. I've angered the hive. I've angered the wasps. Anyway, I'll put some timestamps in real quick. Give me a like, give me a dislike, all that fun stuff, and I'll talk to you guys Sunday for Setup Sunday. Baja, like, find me the data for that. Okay, I haven't seen it. If it exists, I'll be happy to talk about it and praise TIA for all its bridging, but I haven't seen it. Anyway, that's it. I'm out. Have a good weekend. Take care.